Downloading beings. About 35,000 years ago, there was a yogi called Sunira. This yogi floated a certain being. The idea was to create an ideal being who can transform the whole world in one shot. This being has been around for quite some time. Many other yogis have put their inputs into this being. Even Gautama the Buddha talks about this, and he also has put his inputs into this. Krishna himself did something about this being. Gautama predicted that somewhere around 2500 to 3000 years from his time, this being will mature and find a body in the world, and he will be the ultimate teacher in the creation. We were not going for anything like that. It is just that there are so many exalted beings who are constantly after us to do something for them. For a time, we even accommodated a few of them in our own body. At one point, when we were in certain types of sadhana and certain states, without our permission, some of these beings got into us and stayed with us for a period of time. We carried them for quite some time, and physically it was not easy because they were so desperate to find expression in some way. At that time, there were times when it was absolutely confusing for people who lived around us. There were many times when this would just drive Vijay to insanity because we would be just sitting in a chair, and when she looked elsewhere and turned back, we would have become totally someone else. She would be terrified and petrified. We allowed those things for a certain time because we were working on the consecration of the Dhyanalinga. So for some time, we thought about downloading a few of these beings. These are beings who are highly evolved and are reluctant to take on a new body. They have that much choice. They cannot be compulsively drawn into a womb. They have become aware enough where it is a question of a choice. So they are looking for a suitable vehicle through which they can fulfill the final phase of their lives. So if you make your body available, that is only if you have done sufficient work and preparation and are absolutely willing, they can be downloaded into your body. It will not need lots of preparation and sadhana to make people receptive enough for something like that. They must be strong enough but not too strong. They must be vulnerable enough but not too vulnerable. It is a different level of sadhana altogether. If one has to put that being in the same body as another being, that person also must be of the same quality. Otherwise, they will be bad company for them. They are choosy, so choosy that they find no worthwhile womb in the world to get into. When they are that choosy, you are going to have a hard time with them, isn't it? Living with such a person is difficult. So what happens to you? Where do you go? You don't go anywhere. You cease to exist. Would you call this a takeover? No, this is obliteration. I could use a more positive word, mukti. This is called moksha. Call it nirvana if you want to use negative terminology. If such things are done, the existing being has to work to a certain point of willingness where the life process could be untied completely and one can be unplugged so that this being is over for good. Now, if the physical body is still contact, if it is kept in a certain space, and if the other being has been wooed close enough, they could be put into it. It is a complex process, and one will not be successful every time with something like that. It is much more complex than people coming out of spaceships and doing some fixed job and going back inside. I would say this is much more complex because keeping the body in a live condition but evacuating a person can be very difficult. Just getting people out of a rented home, getting a tenant out of the house is so difficult. So, getting a person out of their body when the body is still fit and well is not that simple at all. It takes a lot of wooing. You can woo a man out of many things, but trying to woo him out of his body is the most difficult thing to do. But with the necessary preparation, it can be done. We are talking about getting a life to evacuate its physical structure without damaging it, so that it is still in good form to stage life. I think we live in a society which is too logical and too immature for other aspects of life. So we are trying to do what makes the most sense to them. Planting trees, running hospitals, schools. People are even beginning to call me a tree planter. This downloading is not just for entertainment, it will be a phenomenal boon to society. But after having been here for this long, if we could not produce sufficient beings here of such a level of evolution, then we have to import them from somewhere. I hope such a need will not come to us. We are doing good work. The work here is very intense, and there are lots of dynamic and static volcano like people with us. When all this is there, I am hoping we should not have any need for importing beings. So let us work with the people who have already slipped out of the womb. All of you are here. It does not matter how you came. Let us see what we can do with you.